Do you like gaming? Do you like having fun? Do you enjoy life? Well, fuck you! Welcome to skill-based matchmaking. Skill-based matchmaking was invented during the Cold War by formerly Axis scientists to extract salt from their victims to then fuel salt-based superweapons and uphold the loot box industrial complex. Just kidding, skill-based matchmaking was actually designed by a creature far more sinister, far more dangerous. The money-hungry game publisher. Skill-based matchmaking is the latest game industry trend specifically formulated to make games less fun. What is skill-based matchmaking? Well, it's a system that discreetly examines a player's skill level and then matches that player with other players of a similar skill level. Doesn't sound so bad, right? To really understand why sbmm sucks, we have to ask ourselves, why do we play video games? Because they're fun, right? Yeah, that's one part of the reason, but I'm gonna let you guys in on a little secret. Every video game is just one 20-second loop repeated again and again and again. No matter how fun that loop is, doing the same thing repeatedly, well, it makes Jack a dull boy. In my humble opinion, the number one way that games keep you hooked is progression. Human beings are hardwired to enjoy the feeling of progression, the feeling that we are getting better at something. It is built into our brain chemistry. Games are especially able to provide reliable and explicit modes of progression. That's a huge reason as to why games can be so addicting. That and jiggle physics. Video game progression is usually more associated with RPGs. You know, you have your Skyrim 100 speech memes and your RPG clothing memes, but progression is important for every type of game, even online Dorito grease simulators. To make things clearer, we have to rewind time back to the golden age of online multiplayer FPS action. We have to return back to the days of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. People like to think that MW2's progression is just the gun unlocks and the camo unlocks, but no, you got it wrong, folks. That's the fake progression. You want to know what the real progression is? Boom! Right here, ladies and gentlemen, the leaderboard. You see, before the days of sbmm, when you entered an online match, you would be pooled with players that would, by and large, have skill levels spanning across the entire breadth of the Call of Duty skill spectrum. So, your performances in matches would be reflective of your skill compared to the entire MW2 population. You would have only a little variance in your performances across different matches. Basically, if you suck, you stayed at the bottom. If you were an elite MLG gamer, you would be at the top, and for most players, you would consistently be somewhere in between. The thing that got you hooked to the game was the desire to get better. The feeling of progression would come by seeing your results gradually improve. If you genuinely put some elbow grease and hard work into developing a nice and sexy FaZe Clan mentality, you would noticeably feel yourself climbing up the leaderboard in matches. Believe it or not, people actually do care about how well they perform, even in social unranked playlists. Remember the Call of Duty commentary boom on YouTube in the late 2000s? Yeah, that phenomenon was literally born out of people's desire to get better at COD. I'm saying this because I was one of those people. I would watch C-Nanas and Hutch to try and analyze their hardcore skills. Beyond simply getting a better KD ratio, there was another level of progression within the COD online community, the trick shot mode of progression. Oh my god. You see, once you've reached a certain level of skill, you start to care not just about what you want to do, but how you want to do it. This is stylistic progression. This is the hardest mode of progression for games to nail, but it can be by far the most satisfying. Stylistic progression relies almost exclusively on community interactions. It relies on that raw, visceral desire to one-up your mates. It is born out of... Okay, so I laid out the old days as a meta progression, the pre-skill based bullshit paradise of MW2. Now, let's talk about the modern day matchmaking hell we live in. First of all, let's just completely get rid of the stylistic progression. You can't really pull off 360 no-scopes when 1. Players are half decent and 2. are all psychologically manipulated by SBMM into playing as try-hard as possible. Bye-bye MLG Gamer montages. More importantly, skill-based matchmaking also ruins the fundamental progression ecosystem of social online multiplayer. In SBMM, you can have a wild variance in your performances across matches, simply because you are playing against people who are not only as good as you, but who have also been preconditioned by SBMM into sweating their balls off just to stay afloat. Not feeling super in the zone? Fuck you, minus 10 KD. Butt chugged a 6-pack of Red Bull? Congratulations, plus 12 KD. With this wild variance, you have no clue how good you actually are. Experientially, it is basically impossible to tell if you are getting better. If you have a run of great games, congrats, you are now in a higher skill bracket. Welcome to the bottom of the leaderboard. It's frustrating, it's sweaty, and most importantly, it de-incentivizes long-term commitment. I believe that the feeling of steadily getting better at and exploring the mechanics of a game's multiplayer is the quintessential social unranked experience. SBMM isn't this inherently terrible thing, but when people refer to it, they refer to its current iteration, where SBMM is jacked up to 1000% and just leads to this sweaty hell where after a while, you just kinda want to stop. You can only handle it in tiny little bursts because it kills that really important feeling of progression. Video game developers realized way back during the birth of online multiplayer that some players would want competitive sweaty experiences, so they invented something called ranked playlists. You want to know the difference between SBMM and ranked playlists? Well, you know how matchmaking algorithms calculate your skill level? In ranked playlists, the game tells you that skill level. That's it. That's the difference. This one tiny change not only fixes, but in fact re-emphasizes the meta progression that SBMM ruins. It's really that simple, folks. You want to know something even wackier? Publishers and developers know that SBMM sucks. In Call of Duty's case, both Activision and its developers deny or downplay the existence of SBMM, despite multiple people empirically proving its implementation. Shady stuff. Why did SBMM get implemented in the first place? Money. It's always money. You see, a little thing called Fortnite Battle Royale came along and stole the uber casuals, aka children, away from former casual kings like Call of Duty. I honestly think that publishers saw that cosmetic buying children were leaving their casual shooters and were just like, fuck it, let's do anything and everything to get the children back. I personally do believe the theory that SBMM was implemented to ensure that the worst players, aka children, would stay in their dual analog challenged 0.1 KD skill lobbies in some kind of dystopian eternal Tsukuyomi fever dream, where no one's feelings get hurt and no one actually gets better at the game. But kids still keep buying dumbass anime skins. Ironically, I think these publishers/developers are still actually hurting themselves in the long run. The skill spectrum middle class get hurt the most by SBMM, and I know a lot of these kind of gamers who are now specifically avoiding games that have skill-based matchmaking. Also, all these 0.1 KD kiddies won't stay committed to these online games because SBMM ironically encourages them not to. Talk about an L.